a fitting end to the major series this year. I'm delighted to say that we've got Padraig Harrington with us. Padraig, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
I'm getting on good. Good morning.
We're traditionally supposed to start with the green jacket and the ceremony and the winning of the tournament, but I did want to start by asking you, did you ever have a 10?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. I had a 13 the week after I won my first tournament in Tour in '96, all on TV. And what's interesting about it is they did a little, I suppose, a colour diagram on the back of the Times in the UK about how I took the 13, and my mother cut it out and framed it, and it's still up at home, and there's literally nothing else up on the walls at home but that picture.
How did that go down? Were you happy enough, and did you take it well? Did you take it like Tiger took it?
It's tough when it's happening, but it's nothing more than a score. You know, it's going to happen to you if you're out there all the time playing golf. It's going to happen eventually. So, it didn't hurt. Clearly it didn't hurt me because we put it up. I didn't respond like Tiger, I don't think. I probably made a few pars coming home, and I was playing with Nick Fowler that week. You know, it was a big draw for me. So, but it didn't. No, clearly it didn't hurt me afterwards. I was impressed by Tiger's 5 birdies in the last 6 holes, and it kind of made you think, you know. Yeah, Tiger needs some motivation, doesn't he? He does. I know it was the Masters and everything, but he needs a bit of... He needs to be in the hunt. Like, he didn't play his best golf last year to win the Masters until he had a chance of winning the Masters. He kind of needs that at the moment. He needs to be put in that position that he's under pressure and stress for the best of his golf to come out.
He ended up in a situation, Padraig, where started the tournament very well and almost looked like he was swinging the club like he was swinging it 18 months ago when he won the Masters. And then the draw ended up being a bit funny. The weather delays. He ends up having a very long Saturday. Physically, was it just a bit too much for him this year, having to play so much golf on the Saturday?
Yeah, it looked like that. It really did. He got slower and slower in terms of his walk, and he looked like he was, minding his back. I really do think it did. But then, if he could birdie the last 5 of the last 6 holes, clearly some of it is a motivation thing, that a spark in there. Like, as we all know, he won a tournament with a broken leg, well, a fracture. In that rolling it down, it was only a fracture. So yeah, I think, like at anybody, at his stage of his career, he certain things can motivate you. You know, it could be little things. Maybe somebody in the media says something and it pushes you on, it spurs you on. But definitely with Tiger, he's a better player when there's something on the line, when he's right in there, or under a bit of pressure. And he proved it again there with those 5 birdies, and played nicely to make them. They weren't like anything. They weren't lucky. The only thing with the 10 as well, Tiger hit at the pin there, which if he was in contention, he wouldn't have hit at the pin. So that's another point to it. He'd never take a 10 if he had a chance of winning the tournament.
Can I just ask you about then the whole, because ultimately we've looked at Dustin Johnson being the transcendent talent of his generation, but kind of failing to deliver the major success that would reflect the quality of play throughout the course of the rest of the year. His place on the money list is unassailable versus his rivals at the moment, and so here he delivers on that promise. Was that partly to do with the fact that there were no crowds, and so therefore, when the field telescopes and it's one shot from 4 on the final day, that actually the pressure is less?
I really don't think so. I think of all the people, he's pretty good under pressure. I just think when we thought he was such a good player maybe 10 years ago, he really wasn't. He drove the ball unbelievably well. He struck the ball. He hit it a long way. It was a great strike. But he wasn't a complete player. He was a poor putter and a poor wedge player. And he has really turned around his wedge play. Like, he is a superb wedge player, like chipper and wedge player. And he is putting better based on the fact that if you wedge it better, he just creates more chances. So he knows he's going to hold the next one if he misses this sort of thing. So he's putting a lot better. So he's just a much better player now than he was 5-6 years ago. He had the capability of getting himself in contention. He had the capability of winning tournaments. But, when he was slightly out, like yesterday, he hit a lovely bunker shot in 7 just to get up and down at the right time. Things like that he mightn't have done 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Now he's just a better player. He really has matured. He's worked very hard in his game. You know, if you looked at DJ 10 years ago, you could have criticised him, and the image of him is, you know, it came too easy to him. Whereas now, you know, you see him at golf tournaments, he works hard. He puts a little bit, not a huge amount in at the golf course, a bit like Tiger. He's not somebody who spends hours beating golf balls, but, you know, he's very disciplined in what he does around the golf course. His training, his eating, his whole lifestyle is very, very, you know, it's very good at events, I've got to say. He's just turned into matured. And he's matured, but his game has matured with him.
What you talk about there and the improvements, Padraig, I think it was in Hawaii, maybe at the Tournament of Champions 3-4 years ago, he rocks up with this massively improved wedge game, and he's asked what's changed, and he said, well, I think it's the first time in my life I've practiced my wedge game. Have you noticed over that decade a real change in attitude, that he could no longer rely on his distance? Is that just the maturity that's come with age for him, that he realises this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at his peak to win as many tournaments as he can, and there's been a big attitude shift of him over the last 10 years or so?
You'd have to agree with that, yeah. I think he was getting some good advice behind the scenes, and just eventually push came to shove. Look, you know, you can't. It's great to be a great driver of the ball, and that bit comes easy, but, you know, you can't live on it when you're trying to win tournaments. The difference with, you know, in regular games, you know, driving the ball great, everything goes well, but when you're under pressure, as you would have seen in the first 6-7 holes yesterday, when you're under pressure in a major, or really for a regular person in a normal event, clearly you're going to just miss one or two more fairways or greens in the last round. And you've got to have an ability to get up and down. You've got to be able to manage that. And he didn't have that. And what was even worse with him, not alone did he not have it, he actually attracted disaster in those situations. He'd find issues. Whereas now with a better short game, you know, if he gets out of position, he gets up and down, and all of a sudden it's not an issue. You know, we're not being able to go, oh, well, he chipped it over the green and then chipped it back and took double bogey when the next guy would have made par. He's a very tidy short game now. And that's it's a big threat when you've got such a good long game as well. And, you know, he loves driving the ball. So, yeah, he really is an improved player. He's, you know, like with everybody, is he peaking at this moment? He definitely peaked 3 years ago when he got injured with his back. And, you know, he looks like he's peaking again, which is something you don't see that much in golf. That, you know, guys who get to the very top look like they're unbeatable. Then they always come off that level, and they can still be great players, but they're not quite as standout, unbeatable as he was 3 years ago.
I was going to ask that because he's about the same age now that you were when you hit your peak of winning majors. And is this? Would you expect, given that he's crested to 20 under total at the Masters and dominated the field really over the last 36 hours, that this could be the start of a second peak, that his game is in such good shape?
Well, for the first time in my life, I know it's not a big call, I actually tipped the winner this week when I did say DJ would win. I saw the way his attitude, not that he's, like, remember about 8 weeks ago he played horrible at Muirfield. He got a win at Travellers and he didn't play well that week. It was a very strange win. But looking at him the last couple of weeks, and he just has got very comfortable with who he is. He really is very confident in what he's doing. Yeah, I do believe he's at a second peak. I believe he's you know, could be here for a few years at this. But as we've seen over time, we all think that the best player playing the best at this moment, it's never going to stop. But it does. There is ebbs and flows. But he's very comfortable with who he is, and the fact he's putting well. No, I think he's putting well. His brother's reading the putts, which really helps him. So he's getting some commitment there. And secondly, he's creating so many chances for birdie that there's not much pressure under him because there's always another birdie chance coming. So I think those things, you know, a good run of putting is on a good player is always tough to compete with.
What about Rory's performance this week, Padraig? He ended up in the top 10. There was sparks over the weekend and moments where it felt like maybe he was in contention, maybe he could put some pressure on if he was flawless for the rest of the round. The slow start again has cost him. Is this something that's an easy fix for McIlroy over the next 4 months before he gets back to Augusta again?
well, clearly it's not an easy fix. He's tried a number of different approaches going into it, and it's very evident at the moment that he's telling the world that he's relaxed and he's got other priorities. And so I know people are trying to kick back and say, well, he's not trying hard enough, he's too relaxed. Well, this is deflection by him. Clearly he is wanting this very badly, and you could see that by the start in the first round. And I think with Rory, you just have to sit back and believe that it's going to happen and just wait for it to happen. You can't force it at times. The way he played in rounds 2, 3 and 4, especially off the tee, it was, he really had a bad day off the tee in the first round. And then if you looked at his driving by the last round, he was driving the best in the field by the last round. He was hitting a phenomenal distances out there and straight. He was unlucky on Sunday that he got himself in a position to make a charge coming down the back nine, and the conditions were just too difficult on the back nine to shoot the 4 or 5 under par. Whereas, normally we'd see a few people shoot that on the last nine, but it was very windy, gusting wind on that back nine. So it kind of played into DJ's hands. Clearly DJ was well ahead too, but sometimes you stand on that back nine in Augusta, and you have to shoot under par to win the tournament, where DJ knew he could play safe down 13 and 15. I know he made some birdies too, but he didn't have to take much on.
The statistics of the week, and you touched on his play off the tee, and his putting was very good this week. He was high up in pretty much all the strokes gained statistics, Padraig, except around approach, where I think he ranked 60th out of what was the field, about 95, 96 this week. And that's been a question mark at fields over the last few years with McIlroy about his iron play. Again, the next 3-4 months, what does he do? Is that just practice and you hope that you get there in April in tip-top shape, or is there something deeper that he needs to look at with his approach play?
The thing with Rory is he's always played his best golf after little slumps. When people are, when the world is thinking he's not playing his best, he comes back out and plays great for that 3, 4, 6 months, something like that. He can be patient, or he can try and force it. Can he? He went to see, I think Butch was talking about it on TV last week, that he was working with him, and I think most people looking at it would say, well, it ain't in your ball striking that you have, that there's, why would you be changing a swing that served him very well? He clearly loves hitting the golf ball. He's one of the best strikers, drivers. I don't see a problem with his iron play. Yes, he could probably, we all go back to maybe he could be a better wedge player for a top player in the game. Should he do something like Dustin Johnson and just improve that wedge play? And when you improve the wedge play, it's amazing how much better the putting and the irons and things. A lot of things come off the back of it just because you're going to score better. So I think that would be where you would put the focus. I don't think there's too many people in the game of golf wouldn't want to have Rory's ability tee to green in terms of driver and iron. So I think he'd focus elsewhere.
Is there anything in the psychology of getting ready for the first round of the majors that he needs to look at? You obviously famously would have worked with the late great Professor Aidan Moore, and I don't know if Rory has anybody like that in his life. We've certainly never heard him talk about it.
Well, when he won at the Open, he was working with Bob Rotella, so he has tried it. He knows what it's about. It's one of those things that I think people want it to be simple, black and white, that, look, do this and you'll tee up and you'll be in the perfect place on Thursday morning. It's not that simple. That definitely he needs to be working with somebody and talking to somebody. If it's just to rebound his own ideas, I like somebody like Jack Nicklaus. He would say he didn't want to peak on a Thursday. So he didn't want to play his best golf Thursday. He wanted to play his best golf probably Saturday, if not into Sunday. I would say the best players I've seen in my career in terms of winning would have been Tiger and Monty. And both of them were all about trying to get ready for Sunday and not paying much attention to Thursday because, they wanted to build the momentum and they didn't want to burn themselves out. So clearly Rory needs to get through that first round, but it's not much. Like if he shot a level par in the first round or 1 or 2 under par in very easy conditions, clearly the rest of his play for the rest of the week was good enough, or close to good enough. Obviously, DJ had a great week.
What about Bryson, Padraig? He ended up not being a factor over the weekend. I know he said he wasn't feeling great, was a bit dizzy, had a bit of a dicky tummy as well, but it seemed to all go wrong on that first day. Was that just course management? Was it just some issues with his overall play? What do you put it down to?
Yeah, this wouldn't be, a lot of people were, you see this on social media, were very happy that he didn't do as he said he would do. And happy to see. Golf is a strange game. And this would have been true with DJ. 10 years ago when DJ wouldn't win a tournament, it was too easy for him, so people were happy that he didn't win. We like a little bit of suffering, and you've got to go through a few hoops before you win. And I think Bryson not performing this week, people will come out and say it was because of the long hitting. It wasn't. It was just one of those weeks. His long hitting is an advantage because he's a good player or a great player. Long hitting on an average player is no use. Long hitting on a really good player, which Bryson obviously is, has great belief, is a big advantage. So he just didn't have a good week. I know he came out with a few excuses, this, that, and the other. But look, it wasn't his week. Things didn't go for him. He is the US Open champion, so winning one of the last 2 majors is a great run for anybody. And he looks like he will win majors going forward. And the strange thing is, which I don't know why the powers that be or people haven't understood this. They're all talking about the fact that, they're going to roll back the distance that people hit the golf ball. But that's an advantage for the long hitters if they roll back the distance. So it will actually encourage more people to hit it harder. And he's first one there at the moment, or one of the first ones there. So, yeah, and plus a rollback won't happen for a few years, but it would play into his hands if they did, because it's a lot easier to hit the golf ball on the golf course at 300 yards when the rest of the field are hitting at 270 than it is, say, 330 when the rest of the field are hitting at 300. So it plays into his hands if they do dial back things. Now, they should dial it back. But it will encourage more young kids to just keep hitting it. If you're listening to this out there, make sure you're building on that speed every week.
Good stuff, Padraig. We're nearly out of time here. So last question. In terms of where the game has managed to get itself in the midst of this unbelievable crisis that we're facing, getting these majors away at the end of the year has been a fairly phenomenal logistical effort. And so I think we all really enjoyed the fact that it was on this weekend.
I'm amazed how well they've done. It's incredible. I didn't play the first, 6, 8, 10 weeks, and I kept thinking, this is just going to hit a wall. They're going to have problems. It's been unbelievable how well the PGA Tour led it out there. The majors obviously saw the PGA Tour having success, European Tour, and followed suit, and they've done a tremendous job. They've gone on with it. Just phenomenal. And the fact we got to watch a couple of majors, 3 majors in total, the fact we got to match the Masters this week, and it wasn't the perfect Masters without the crowd, without the, clearly the golf course isn't in as good a shape at this time of the year as it is in April. So it wasn't perfect, but it was certainly better than I'm not even saying it was better than nothing. It was well up there with a great weekend of golf and something that we were surprised. Sport has done well. They've really done well to get worked hard, and particularly golf, because they're individuals. They're not, it's not like a team that you can just put everybody in one place. So fair play to the organisers.
Yeah, and the next one, it's a blink of an eye before we'll be teeing it up and going, can Rory do the Grand Slam again? So before we know it, it's going to be here. Great to have you with us this morning, Padraig. Thanks a million.
Thank you, guys.
It's Padraig Harrington giving us some thoughts there on a really interesting Masters. Plenty of talking points. Was there anything we didn't get to there, Nathan, that you think you guys are going to be going out in Golf Weekly this week?
Oh, well, we'll manage to get a good 2.5 hours out of the Masters, a one-by-one player review. It was a good Masters, I think, with a great champion, is probably how I'd sum it up. Like, Dustin Johnson deserves 2 majors. He's, in regular tour golf, probably been the best player of the past decade. He's been overshadowed by McIlroy, by Spieth and Koepka at periods, but consistently just delivers. And it was great as well to see him so emotional. I don't know if you saw his post-round interview. He didn't cry for Jim Nance in the butler's cabin. No matter how Jim prodded, he didn't cry. But he went outside then for the CBS interview on the 18th green, and he was in floods. He couldn't talk. He couldn't talk for about 5 minutes. It was a very awkward interview by the end, but we never see that from Dustin Johnson. He's just a machine. So it was great to see, actually, this guy. He is human after all.
All right. Here's Tommy Conlon and Cian O'Connor talking about Katie Taylor's historic win at the weekend. Have a look.